Hello and welcome to my channel. My name is Chrissy Hodges. I'm an advocate for OCD, in particular pure OCD, which is also the name of my memoir, Pure OCD, The Invisible Side of Obsessive Compulsive Disorder. I'm a certified peer support specialist. I work with people all over the world providing support as they're working toward recovery or even after. I also provide groups through my practice, 8-week closed groups where you can meet other people and get support, and an online community with support, events, and all kinds of things. Check me out at chrissyhodges.com or email me for more information. NoCD, NOCD is an app, and inside that app, you can find resources for OCD, connections with other people who have OCD, and they also do treatment via ERP through telehealth in many, many places around the world. To find out more, go to treatmyocd.com and also to sign up for an assessment. Today, I wanted to talk about something that is really common. You don't hear a lot about this theme. And the reason why is because individuals who live with schizophrenia and psychosis are highly stigmatized. And so, to talk about this theme, you have to be really careful about the language that you use and also making sure that you are um, the message is that there's nothing frightening about schizophrenia and psychosis, and that this is merely just a theme for OCD, just like any other mental health theme or medical theme or health anxiety and OCD. So, but I wanted to talk about it today because I just hear about it a lot with clients, and they feel frustrated because there's not a lot online. So sometimes it feels like, well, what if this really isn't OCD? The whole jazz around all of that. You never really believe it's OCD. It always feels like it's too real to be OCD. So just wanted to go over a few points on how this could manifest. So what are we talking about? We're talking about when you are living with OCD and you have fears that you are going to snap, you break with reality, lose control of everything in your faculties. Typically, it will come alongside harm or even sexual intrusive thoughts or doing something that is bizarre in nature. I might break from reality, snap, and do what my intrusive thoughts are telling me that I'm capable of. So then now you're dealing with kind of two different themes here. You're dealing with your normal theme, which could be harm, sexual, anything like that. And then now you're dealing with the fears of losing control, breaking with reality, developing psychosis, and then something really horrible happening. Um, we, I do want to point out that there's a lot of misconceptions out there about psychosis, a lot of misinformation about individuals that live with schizophrenia, that they are violent and that people in psychosis are just violent murderers. I mean, this is such bullshit. I mean, it's perpetuated by the media, unfortunately, because the media is stupid. But that's not necessarily the case. So I want to make that clear. Even though people may develop these fears, there's no realistic outcome of having psychosis means you're going to do something horrible and violent or rape someone or anything of that. But that doesn't mean that your fears can't manifest that. As we know with OCD, our fears are just very bizarre, not often grounded at all in reality, no matter what they are. So I just wanted to kind of make that clear first as I start to get talking about this. So one of the things that can happen when you are dealing with kind of the fears of having a break with reality, let's talk about the feelings first. The feeling that you might have is maybe you have experienced dissociation before, derealization or depersonalization. These are common symptoms that come alongside anxiety, y'all. This is your, I mean, the way that I like to put it to myself when I experience it is this is my brain's way of pulling me back from grounding to protect me from whatever anxiety I am having that is so high that I cannot control my central nervous system. And so it basically is a protecting mechanism for me. I remember specifically, I probably shared this on video before, specifically one time being triggered by, I'd found out that someone that I had been with earlier in the day had developed like the neurovirus or something, and I have fear of vomiting. And when I found that out, I completely dissociated. And I remember feeling it happening and I was panicking and it was really like my brain came in and was just like, okay, Chrissy, this you're on overload right now and we need to calm you down and protect you. And I was sitting in the car, pulled the car over, and I remember just sitting there until I could ground back to reality. Now, I didn't feel out of control in the way that I thought something horrible was going to happen. I don't have that fear, by the way, but I have experienced dissociation many times. And when it is happening, I can actively feel like my brain is trying to protect me from something that I am engaging with that I don't have the capacity at that point. So typically what I will do is if I'm experiencing dissociation and I need to make it stop, is that I'll do grounding of my senses. Touch, hearing, smell, sight, taste. Suggestions would be to eat a lemon, eat something very spicy, touch something that's very rough on your fingers, or pinch the inside here where it's sensitive. Smell something very pungent like alcohol, like rubbing alcohol, smelling that. And then sometimes I listen to music that can ground me back to reality as well. Um, Sight, you can look for different colored things to kind of calm down. So dissociation is something that may even kick this theme off. If you've experienced dissociation and all of a sudden and I will be honest, dissociation can be frightening. I mean, when you realize, oh my goodness, I feel like I was out of my body, all of a sudden it does feel like you're out of control. And what if something could have happened? But kind of remembering the mechanism that I just talked about can be really comforting afterwards of just like, okay, I was just having some heightened central nervous system. My brain was processing, and this is what happened. Um, but as we know, OCD can take those things and run. So if you've experienced this, your OCD might say, oh my God, what if this happens again? And you snap and do something. So what you might do, and this is something you may not know, is that dissociation, depersonalization, derealization, all the different terms that we can use for this, might become similar to like what a groinal is. Now all of a sudden you're fearing dissociation so much that you feel like you're going into dissociation all the time, or that you did dissociate when you may not have. So the fear of it now becomes the focus. So now all the time, am I dissociated? Am I feeling dissociated? Oh my gosh, I feel like I'm dissociating. Maybe I did and I don't remember. So now dissociation and all of that becomes part of the pattern and maybe even an obsession. Just like arousal non-concordance, the groinal will, right? It comes alongside whatever theme. And so now you're focusing on the groinal and you're like, oh my God, this is proof. Well, then if you have dissociation and now you're having those fears on top of, am I going to break from reality? Am I going to experience psychosis? And if that happens, am I going to do something wrong? Now, all of a sudden, it's almost like dissociation becomes the gateway and you're really, really scared of it. So you're hyper focused all the time on not dissociating. And this may make you start avoiding a lot of things. I'm not going to go here. I'm not going to go there. I'm not going to leave the house. I'm not going to drive. I'm not going to do these things just in case dissociation happens. Avoidance. And that's making the dissociation stronger. Okay, so with that, that's the feelings. There's all kinds of other feelings that go along with it as well. But now we're going to talk about like some of the when you, just like any other health anxiety, you might, if you're worried you have a brain tumor, you might go read all the symptoms of a brain tumor. Now all of a sudden you think you're manifesting them. I have a headache, I feel dizzy, I'm seeing, spots, or it's blurry. And this can happen with OCD, that you're starting to manifest these things after you read about them or learn about them. The same thing can happen when you're reading symptoms of psychosis. Now all of a sudden you think you're seeing things, you think you're hearing things. And now you're trying to figure out, oh my gosh, did I just have a delusion? Am I seeing something? Are these the first signs? Is this what happened when people actually developed it and I'm just ignoring the signs, right? So coupled with these feelings of dissociation, things like that, this can become really scary. Just like any other health anxiety you might have with OCD. You're feeling like you're manifesting symptoms and it can be really terrifying. I'm just going to bring in one other point. I've probably said this on videos before, but this can also happen if the fear of sleepwalking. If I go to sleep, What if I lose, consciousness or break with reality in sleep and I do something and I can't remember it? And then I wake up the next morning and yada, yada, yada. People will go to extreme measures about this, putting things in front of the door so they'll wake up, putting massive locks on doors so they can't get out unless they're awake and can consciously undo locks. I mean, but people, y'all could get injured doing this. Putting like stuff in front of the door, you could fall and hit your head. Like, so this is, what this is doing is like providing yourself reassurance. If I'm going to sleepwalk, there's going to be like, a big pile of clothes before I get to the door, and I'm going to fall over the clothes and wake up. But you might hurt yourself. So I just want to say that this is super common and people really fear this a lot. Shopping and oh yeah. And so this is, and this is the title of the video, but I just wanted to emphasize this just to wrap up. I mean, a lot of this comes with the fear of snapping and doing something out of your control. Now, this may seem very specific when it comes to fears of developing psychosis or having a break from reality, coupled with having harm fears, having sexual fears, things like that, because you might read stories about this. I caution you, unless you're doing exposure response prevention or you're engaging in exposures, don't read stories like that where, people have had breaks from reality and they've done horrible things. Because one of the things you're going to do, probably, if you don't have a lot of restraint around being able to manage OCD, is now you're going to go look at what this person was like. Am I like them? Did they have these thoughts before? Were they experiencing these feelings before? Am I on the path to doing something like that? Right. And so a lot of times you'll see these news stories, you'll see headlines like that, and you start to really think to yourself, if that person can do it, I might be able to do it. Same with, and here in America, unfortunately, we have a lot of mass shootings. And so people will have these fears with that too. What's to stop me? What if I snap? What if I'm out of my mind and I can't stop myself? And then I come back and realize what I've done? Or what if I never come back and I don't realize what I've done, but I cannot live with myself knowing I've harmed someone, et cetera, et cetera. So a big part of this is the snapping and losing control and doing something, and then hyper focusing on the, am I going to snap? And what are the signs? And so they're like two fears on top of each other, and it's super torturing. So, one of the things I wanted to tell you is, like anything with health anxiety, you're going to struggle with some secondary fears of, well, I can't just believe that this is OCD because the risk is too high. What if I am having symptoms and something does happen and I do something? But that's what OCD is going to tell you. The risk is too big to believe it's OCD. Sometimes when we live with OCD and when we've lived with it for a really long time and we have really tough, intrusive thoughts, when we find out that this is actually OCD, we think this is too simple of an explanation. This feels way too real. And for individuals that are struggling with this, especially if you're having dissociation and depersonalization, you are going to say to yourself, nope, this is real. So I cannot take the risk and believe that it's OCD in case something catastrophic happens at my hands. I'm going to tell you something. This is OCD. Make sure to talk to a therapist about this. This is a very common theme. You are not alone in this. I'm so sorry we don't have more information out about it. But again, and I'm sure as I'm talking about this, you can see that this is a sensitive topic. And so it's really hard to talk about without stigmatizing an actual diagnosis of people that are already highly stigmatized. So with that, absolutely, you can get help with this. You're not alone with this. I know the symptoms can be so tough because they often are walking alongside another theme. So you've just got layer upon layer of this. And it's just scary because it seems like you're just waiting for something to happen. And you're waiting of, oh my gosh, all these signs happening and I'm just not taking it serious. I'm here to tell you this is way more common than you will ever know. And I am so sorry that you're dealing with this, but you can get help for it. So I hope this is helpful if you're struggling with this and that you can get some help because you deserve it. Check out my website, chrissyhodges.com, to find out more about my services, or email me to find out more. And then for Treat My OCD with treatment and to be part of their app, go to treatmyocd.com. We'll see you next time.